Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. I'm here to present Assembly Bill 280, the Mandela Act on solitary confinement. As we all know, years of research continue to confirm that solitary confinement causes deep psychological and physical harm, but it remains common in jails, prisons, and detention facilities across California. And although this bill does not affect our state and psychiatric hospitals, it is important that we shed light on the practice of seclusion, a practice similar to solitary confinement whereby a patient is locked in a bare room without a timeline for release. Because seclusion goes undocumented much of the time, patient advocates and family members often left to piece together how long patients have been isolated. The consensus among mental health experts, human rights organizations, and the United Nations is that prolonged solitary confinement amounts to torture. In 2016, the National Commission on Correctional Health Care stated that a period of confinement beyond 15 consecutive days is inhumane, degrading treatment, and harmful to an individual's health. The lack of human contact and endless monotony causes deep depression, paranoia, and some even suffer hallucinations. Others experience large fluctuations in weight and chronic pain. And due to extremely restrictive conditions, chronic health conditions either go untreated or are mistreated. AB 280 provides the definition of what constitutes solitary confinement across all facilities in California, in alignment with the UN Mandela rules, and imposes limits on how it can be used. Additionally, this bill would prohibit the use of solitary confinement for vulnerable populations, such as pregnant women and those with serious mental and physical disabilities. To state the obvious, people who need specialized care should not be locked in a room the size of a king-size bed without access to the services that they need. I would like to extend my gratitude to the governor and his administration for the positive conversations on this topic. From the discussions we have had, it is clear that the governor also shares my interest in reducing the use of solitary confinement to emphasize positive rehabilitation techniques instead. While I appreciate the work of the governor, his administration, and CDCR, there are areas where I remain concerned. For example, I believe that it is imperative that we prohibit the confinement of pregnant women in isolation. It is also important that we protect our young people and those who are severely disabled from the effects of solitary confinement. I'm hopeful that with continued effort we can close these gaps and work towards a fuller consensus with the governor. As I've mentioned before, several states, including New York and Colorado, have already taken critical steps to minimize their use of solitary confinement. California must join these states and the international community to set well-defined standards and limits on the use of solitary confinement. This begins by recognizing that prolonged solitary confinement is torture and setting uniform and consistent limits on how solitary confinement is used. Here with me to testify in support of AB 280 is Hakeem Owen, who will speak on the impact solitary confinement has had on his life, and Margaret Mendelson with Prison Law Office, which has been involved in numerous settlement agreements with CDCR and jails throughout the state. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. You'll each have 2 minutes. You may begin.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Hakeem Owen, and I'm here to share my lived experience as a solitary survivor. I'm from Sacramento, but I never imagined that my journey would lead me to this moment. Today, as an undergraduate at UC Berkeley, with the Underground Scholars Program and an advocate with the California Mandela Campaign, I am compelled to raise my voice and shed light on the heartbreaking reality faced by countless human beings in this country. My first contact with law enforcement came when I was 18 years old. As a result, I was placed on probation and soon thereafter subsequently found myself in prison for the first time. Over the many years that followed, I was subjugated to several lengthy periods in solitary confinement. Be certain, solitary confinement is a different level of hell. My knowledge is not only derived from the pain that I felt personally, but also from the disturbing sights that I witnessed from within those walls. While in solitary confinement, I observed 2 individuals take their own lives, one of whom was 20 years old and about 4 months away from being released. His cries for help still echo in my mind, and I am haunted by the way in which his pleas were disregarded. These atrocities occurred in the dark, but I am standing here today because I understand that it's my responsibility to speak out. Because the impact of solitary confinement is profound. It leaves an everlasting scar on the mind, body, and soul. Even to this day, I carry the weight of all that trauma within me, and it took every ounce of my strength to overcome its devastating effects. The opposition will come forward and argue that solitary confinement is necessary for the safety of institutions, individuals, and society. Yet we have seen time and time again that this practice does more harm than good. When a person is eventually released back into society after enduring solitary confinement, they return broken and ill-equipped to cope with the pain that they have endured. You are setting them up for failure and perpetuating a cycle of violence and suffering. The opposition will attempt to convince you that there are only two choices, solitary or general population. This is fallacy. Numerous models and examples exist that demonstrate humane and safe alternatives exist to isolation. We must acknowledge that California can and must do better on the issue of solitary confinement. It is within our power to find alternatives that prioritize compassion, healing, and true rehabilitation. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Next witness.
Good afternoon, Chair. My name is Margot Mendelson, and I am the Legal Director of the Prison Law Office, a nonprofit law firm that advocates on behalf of incarcerated people. Our organization represents over 100,000 people in prisons and jails across the state. We fight to ensure adequate health care, curb abuses of incarcerated people, and reduce rates of incarceration across the state. As part of our work, my colleagues and I spend a great deal of time inside California prisons and jails. We have extensive contact with our clients, and we conduct regular site visits in locked facilities throughout the state. Solitary confinement is an issue of major concern to our office and to our clients. I want to emphasize that the use of solitary confinement is rampant in this state right now. People in California prisons and county jails routinely spend upward of 23 hours a day locked in concrete cells with little to occupy their minds. Many of our clients get out of their cells as little as 15 minutes a day, and the primary contact they have with other human beings is screaming through locked cell doors. Our clients in solitary confinement experience racing thoughts, paranoia, depression, uncontrollable weeping. They tell us that they have bouts of anger, difficulty with mood control, and profound disorientation as a result of the sensory deprivation. These harms of solitary confinement are well established. Incidents of suicide and self-harm are vastly higher in solitary confinement units. Many of the mental health impacts of solitary confinement are permanent, meaning that they don't just affect the person while they're in solitary confinement, but also upon their release to general population and later to the community. In county jails in the state, the use of solitary confinement is particularly excessive and unprincipled. Many county jails use solitary confinement in the absence of adequate mental health resources, including for people on suicide watch or experiencing acute mental health crisis. People spend months or even years in these units all across the state without knowing why they're there or how or when they can get released. Placing strict limits on the use of solitary confinement makes facilities safer, it saves money, and it promotes rehabilitation by expanding access to supportive programming. Most importantly, it prevents the senseless destruction of human life, as Hakeem described. We as a state must explore alternatives to solitary confinement that are rooted in humanity and principles of wellness and rehabilitation. There are safe alternatives to solitary confinement that promote health, security, and human decency. This bill is sorely needed because existing laws and regulations fail to curb the unrestrained use of solitary confinement, which has no place in our state. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Additional witness, come forward and state your name and your organization, please. Thank you.
Leslie Caldwell Houston for the California Public Defenders Association in support.
Danica Rodarmel on behalf of Smart Justice California, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area, Transformative In-Prison Work Group, and the GRIP Training Institute in support.
Alicia Benavides-Lewis on behalf of the Immigrant Legal Resource Center in strong support.
Kevin McCarthy, solitary survivor. CDC put me in solitary 10 years just for being labeled as a gang associate. Thank you. In strong support.
John Vasquez on behalf of Communities United for Restored Youth Justice in strong support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Gregory Kramer on behalf of Disability Rights California. We're a proud co-sponsor.
Carlos Hernandez on behalf of the MIPA Collective. We're in strong support.
Adriana Sanchez Ochoa, one of the co-sponsors with Next Gen California and strong support.
Jackie Gonzalez, Policy Director, Immigrant Defense Advocates, proud co-sponsor and strong support.
Jim Lindberg, Friends Committee on Legislation of California, in support.
Good afternoon. Glenn Backus, Ella Baker Center for Human Rights, in support.
Megan Chung with the Steinberg Institute, in support.
Hi, Eric Henderson, Legislative Advocate at ACLU California Action, in support.
Hi, Dan Oakenfuss, California Foundation for Independent Living Centers, in support.
Any additional witnesses in support here in the room? Seeing none, now let's move to opposition. Witnesses in opposition.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Corey Salzillo on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association. In the interest of time, this bill's been heard before. This bill's been vetoed before. We'll just say we're opposed to the bill. Thank you.
Chair and members, Daniel Sanchez on behalf of the Chief Probation Officers respectfully oppose unless amended to align with existing regulations and statute, and appreciate the conversations with the author. Thank you.
Lieutenant Brandon Epp on behalf of the Los Angeles County Sheriff in respectful opposition. Thank you.
Matthew Easley, representing the California Correctional Peace Officers Association, in opposition. Thank you.
Ryan Sherman with the Riverside Sheriff Association and Deputy Sheriff Association of Monterey and Placer Counties, in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional witnesses in opposition here in the room? Seeing none, let's go to our phone lines and see if there's individuals wishing to testify in support and or opposition to AB 280.
To testify in support or opposition to AB 280, please press 10. And first, we will hear from line 222. Please go ahead.
Aaron Reed and Associates on behalf of PORAC, in opposition.
And line 246. Please go ahead. 243.
Nzima Skating, a directly impacted individual, in support of AB 280.
Line 249.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Melissa Carsey on behalf of Californians for Safety and Justice and strong support. Thank you.
Line 247. Line 247, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senators. This is Kobi Pizzati on behalf of the California Association of Psychiatric Technicians in respectful opposition.
Line 250.
Tim Warbach, Hunger Strike Prison Solidarity, in strong support.
Line 235.
Mr. Bailon from Orange County, I support.
Line 230.
Annalise Ruiz on behalf of Young Women's Freedom Center and Sister Warriors Freedom Coalition, in support.
Line 216.
Willow Katz, family member and loved one of solitary survivors, on behalf of California Families Against Solitary Confinement and Solitary Santa Cruz County, social workers and allies against solitary confinement, Temple Bethel Jewish Community Center, APTOS, and Prisoner Hunger Strike Solidarity Coalition, strong support of AB 280.
Line 240.
And in reality, I probably should have been a sexual race and how much he got.
Line 241. Line 241, please go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Gabriela Wells, and I am in strong support and calling in on behalf of Amnesty International Group 30 San Francisco and as the State Death Penalty Abolition Coordinator. Thank you so much. Strong support.
Line 246. Line 246, please go ahead. Line 240. Line 240, please go ahead.
Yes, you got your phone? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, there are no further comments.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm still being the only one here. I just want to thank you for this common sense measure, Assemblyman Holden, and I find it hard to believe that we find more compassion sometimes for farm animals and making sure that they are not housed in a cage by themselves and other forms of livestock, but not human beings, and to have a opposition to making sure people are not tortured, because that's what solitary confinement is. It's torture. And for us to call ourselves a, first world society and still want to be barbaric in how we house people, whether you're a prisoner or not, is just inhumane, to say the least. So I appreciate this measure. It's long overdue, and we need to change. And European countries have clearly changed their approach to how they house prisoners and treat them. And if we're talking about rehabilitation and things of that nature, locking someone in a room for 23 hours a day doesn't help whatsoever. So I'm going to leave it at that. And if you would like to close.
I just concur with your statement. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank those who have either sponsored this bill or last year's bill, those who are advocates for change that have come out consistently to let their voice be heard around what this represents as a stronghold on society, and certainly those within the prison system who find themselves placed in solitary confinement for extended periods of time. They have been dealing with this longer than I have in terms of the public advocacy, and I want to thank them for their engagement and their continued advocacy, especially those who have testified who actually lived the experience. You cannot get a clearer understanding of just how depriving this is to a person's self-worth and to their integrity and to their spirit, as was identified. And so I'm very pleased to be here as the author, but there are a lot of people who have really been pushing for appropriate change for a long time. And as I said earlier in my comments, I do believe that the governor recognizes that some form of change needs to happen. And so we look forward to those ongoing conversations, and when you have a quorum, we look for an aye vote on AB 280.
Thank you.